Hello, coaches. Just a quick one. It's great to see Jesse Marsch in the Premier League with Leeds United. We were fortunate to have him on the Modern Soccer Coach webinar during the lockdown in 2020. Brilliant presentation. I'm going to give you three takeaways from that there. We've also got this, ironically, in the new book. So if you want to read more, and you can also download the full webinar in the link below. Please subscribe. Let us know what you think. Thank you. The first takeaway was when he described the key fundamental parts of what his philosophy is when he goes into a new club, which is obviously going to be interesting when he goes into Leeds United club halfway through the season. So what are the main things that he stands for? What does he try to implement? I think the main thing for me is the last point in this here is the results versus the learning environment. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but it's good to get an overall view of what he stands for and what he values.
I say this a lot, have a plan, right? Now, what is the plan? Well, the plan can be a million things, but certainly as a starting point for me, the plan has to be a tactical way of playing, an idea, a philosophy, however you want to call it. But the details of how you play, what you do on the field, what's with the ball, without the ball, in transition moments, set pieces, how you create sophistication within your team. This winds up being very, very vital to your team's success. The communication style. So this winds up being vital. I'm very open. They said this to me here in Germany and Austria, that they describe Americans as open, and then they describe me as very open. And I think that is really, really important, that you can have conversations with people on a 1v1 basis in small groups with the team, and you can communicate clearly, but you can also share your personality in a way that makes it clear to everybody, how to interact. And we're all, as leaders, I think obviously the things we say and the things we do are very important. But I think it's almost more the way in which we say and do those things. The daily routine and the methods, what it's like when you show up, the way that you're able to create training sessions that translate clearly to the way that you're trying to play. The learning environment versus the result-based environment, right? We all say that we like to create learning environments and that we're about development. I think it's very important to do that the right way. But, winning is also a learned quality or a skill or it's a talent. But this part of now still understanding, and certainly in the world of a professional coach, that where we're often judged by results, the understanding of how to create a learning environment that can ultimately lead to being result-based.
Second takeaway for me was the environment that he talks about in the physical environment and how he aligns that with the results-based business that he's in. So how they incorporate video, the importance of video, how to get the players engaged around video. I thought was absolutely brilliant. Here's some clips on that.
A lot of years we would go through, okay, how do we get better? How do we learn? How do we create a developing environment about development? So we would talk a lot about in training what we did every day, what it was like when you came to work. When I first came to New York, the club had nothing on the walls. It was gray. The training facility was beautiful, but it had no life. Right. So that was the first thing I said, is I'm like, we need pictures up here. We need Red Bull banners. We need messaging. I'm a big fan of messaging. Right. And so even when we walked out to go to the field, we had messaging, things you had to do before you went out on the pitch, visualizations. And then, obviously what we did in work every day. And a big part of that was the video. And maybe you've heard, I'll go into that a little bit more, but the video winds up being very important to me. Yes, setting goals. A big part of setting goals is understanding how to measure. We would break the season up into quarters. We would have goals for set pieces, for statistical things, for, environmental things, such as how many times guys were late, or, we created bonuses for things that if the environment was proper, that they were rewarded in certain ways. How do you put theories of your playing style to practice? How do you put theories of your leadership style to practice? How do you put your theories of your communication style to practice? And listen, a lot of the things I do, even to this day, and even though I have more years of experience now, there's still so many things that I do that I try, and sometimes I fail, or I see that if I did it again, maybe if I did it a little bit differently, and I could find a way to iron it out this way. And so, it's almost like trying to find a way to get to the core of what I want to be, who I want to be, and what I want our teams to be. That's ultimately going to be the measure of how well I do as a coach.
And the third and final takeaway, and one of the most fascinating for me, and the biggest piece that I took and put it in the book, is from the individual development standpoint. So how to get players into the playing style, into the environment, but also around data to measure, enhance performance, drive performance, and use that, and also how he aligns that alongside psychology, what metrics are aligned with the attitude points, transitional points. Here's a clip on that.
Here is our way of sort of statistically analyzing a game. And I took this from New York. We've changed it a little bit for how we do things here in Salzburg. But we tried to create different categories. I think there's 19 categories here. We called them attitude points, things that would never be judged by the TV or by normal statistical parameters. And so, we have a collection here of different things. Against the ball for us is really important. So we have most of our statistical things that we track are things that we call against the ball. And then we have goals for each position for each game. And then we have point totals that we're looking to get as a team. And then we have players that wind up winning a point session for the game. Then I put this in here because we had player development agreements with players where actually they would sit down and they would come to us first and say what things they thought that they wanted to work on and that they wanted to track in games. And we would separately as a staff come up with our own ideas. And ideally, we would come together and we would have the same ideas because we talked so much about improvement and what were the next steps. And then we could build a development plan together. So this was not the coaching staff giving it to them. This was them also contributing and taking the first step, and then us guiding them a little bit. I also purposely put Bradley Wright Phillips in here. Okay, so Bradley was probably our best player. He was one of our oldest players. And, I've heard a lot that some people think that older players, they don't develop the way that younger players do. And that, after certain ages that, it's time to maybe move in other directions. I understand those arguments. But if that's how people feel, then it's almost like, well, what am I doing as a coach? I'm wasting my time because as I get older, am I going to be so stubborn that I don't want to develop more and I don't want to learn more and I can't get better? Like, I think that's a ridiculous concept. For me, it's more about what kind of environment do you create? Do you create an environment where players actually want to get better? And maybe your way to evaluate that the best is by how much improvement does your oldest player show?
Really excited to see Jesse Marsch in the Premier League with Leeds United. He was fantastic on the webinar. If you want to watch the full thing, please go to modernsoccercoach.com/shop. You can download the full webinar. Also, if you want to read about the individual development piece that he was talking about and a little bit more and much more, modernsoccercoach.com/shop. Detail available right now. Thanks for all your support. Please subscribe below for more content. Thank you. Goodbye.